part of the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department. And again, we're pleased to have you here. Well, I assume you're all here for 3 reasons. Probably these 2 gentlemen and one other patron that is we think might not be able to make it today. But we've got 2 of the 3 wonderful artists who have been featured in this exhibition, Drawn East. First, we have Michael Guinane. A lot of folks know him from our 2nd floor. He's one of our painting teachers here. And we have Cody right next to him. This show has gotten, well, let's just say our comment box has been busting at the seams over the last 2 weeks with positive feedback over this just amazing exhibition. So we're so thrilled that we could feature them this month during the summer. And we're going to hear a little bit about them today and kind of how this show came about and who they are. Oh, and I wanted to mention Ellen O'Shaughnessy is not here this week, obviously. She had another engagement with the but if you want to see what's coming up in future Conversation Coffee programs, we do this every Thursday at noon. You can grab one of these green sheets and they'll be right up on the desk. Okay, Michael and Cody, can you guys tell us a little bit about who you are? Why don't you start, Michael?
So, I'm Michael Guinane, and for many of you that come to these, you probably already know me. I think this is my 3rd Conversations in Coffee I've done this year. So I am a painting instructor. Here I teach, again, like Jeff said, I'm on the 2nd floor. I came to Columbus to go to the Columbus College of Art and Design, and I studied illustration there, actually. And then kind of moved on to the fine art world, but I think there's always a little bit of that illustration touch into a lot of the work that I do. So graduated that, and I've just been kind of painting, represented by gallery, Sharon Weiss Gallery here in Columbus, and I work and I'm represented actually by a gallery up in Maine, which I think kind of led us up to kind of get this trip started. And so I just work through that system and I make a living just painting. That's a real simple rundown.
My name is Cody Heichel. Thanks everyone for coming out. Thank you. Is it on? Can you hear me? That's better. I'll speak more directly from my let's see. I moved to Columbus in 2010. My wife was starting medical school, and we decided that we were going to try to live in the same city. So I moved to Columbus. It was around that time that I started taking an interest in visual art as being kind of a creative outlet for me, whereas music kind of filled that slot for a long time beforehand. So I started getting into painting and watercolor, just kind of teaching myself. So I'm a self-taught artist, but I sought out a lot of different workshops and things like that around the country. And then I started working at an art gallery called Open Door Burk Studio, which some of you may be familiar with. I see some people representing in the back. I'm very excited to see some of you guys here. For those that don't know, Open Door Art Studio is a gallery and working art space for adults with disabilities in Columbus. And so I worked there for 6 years, and throughout that time I was starting to become more serious about my own work and kind of trying to balance the two. And in May of 2016, I made the move to doing full-time art making. And so I show my work at Brant Roberts Galleries in the Short North, and then a couple other galleries, one in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and one actually in Loudville, Ohio, which is it's my grandfather's old hardware store turned into a gallery. It's a quaint old gallery, but I just love the story of that, and I like that I'm able to represent some work in that space that was my grandfather's at one time. So I guess that's a short rundown of me and my work.
How did you guys get to know each other? What
kind of leads into this whole show is I think we really got to know each other. We're a lot of artists around Columbus. It's I don't want to say so much a tight-knit community, but a lot of the artists know one another. And there's lots of circles that run within the art world of Columbus, and we do a lot of. There's a lot of collaborations. There's a lot of group shows. A lot of people working together, and we kind of knew each other's names on radar. We have a lot of friends, and kind of that. The same goes with what we're going to say here. Kind of works with Christopher, who our missing member of this. And we would do group shows together, and a lot of those shows would be with a lot of other different artists. We have these large 10 artist shows, and we'd be working through those, and then we find it wasn't so much even, as part of that we appreciate each other's work, we liked what we were all doing, but then it would kind of come to those little meetings you had, and you plan out these shows, and you kind of just, some of it became like a real social thing, I think, where we just liked hanging out with each other, and we liked talking about art. We'd just go out, and we just meet each other for dinner, or meet for a drink, and we just discuss what we're working on, how it's going about, and just having a good time to talk art. So it became such a social thing where you get that connection first, and then you say, okay, I have these ideas, or let's do a show like this, or I love it. There it is. I have to put my mouth on this. I don't know, whatever works best. If you guys can hear me, fine. Kind of talk loud. But yeah, so it became that social aspect of it, and then we just kind of said, I have this great idea, and like for this show, I was like, I have an idea, I go to Maine, you guys need to come with me, and I need you guys to see this. And so I invited Maine, I think immediately said yes.
Yeah, like, just thinking just about, the friendship kind of started, in a sense, it's almost like co-workers. When you work at the same space, you can have these conversations about the mundane aspects of your job, and it's exciting to you, and then it repels other people. No one wants to hear about more very specific stories about this very specific site you work at, but it's really exciting for the people who work there. And I kind of felt that way, sparking a friendship with Michael and Christopher in particular. I think our works were similar enough so that not only could we be like, oh man, Paine's gray, isn't that a neat color? Like, love that color.
A lot of those circles of friends don't like to hear, like, when you talk about gouache or watercolor in this situation, your friends are just like, no, please stop talking. So that's why we have these kind of circles.
Yeah, so it's very exciting to know that you're in those conversations and you can just let loose and talk about those things, and there's no one that you're kind of hindering, for that time being. So I really came to enjoy those conversations that we have. And yeah, things just happen to come up, and I know I had seen some of the work that Michael had produced from years past from visiting Maine, and so I'm not sure the exact way it came up, but at some point he just mentioned, you're kind of like a go-getter, you're just like, we should go to Maine, and that would not be on, I think, mine or Christopher's radar to do that, but eventually it came to fruition, and that was kind of the biggest step of all, is to actually get the three of us, namely Christopher and I, to agree to go on some long trip. I'm glad we did.
And it all originated years ago. Let's say years. Let's say 6 maybe years ago. Kind of out of the blue, I was contacted by a gallery in Kennebunkport, Maine, and they said, we were looking for an artist. They recommended this gallery in Columbus, and we saw them. We were kind of iffy, but we liked your work. Would you be interested in showing just a piece? Just give us one piece, maybe for our summer show. And I did, and then they liked it, so they said, send some more. And then kind of came a thing, and they said, would you like to do a solo show with us? And I agreed maybe 5 years ago to do that. And that got me just going up, and I just put a bunch of work in my car. I drove up to Maine and did a show. It was fun. It was popular, like a lot of shows, like the shows we have here. But then I stayed for a week, and just along, and most of my our experiences have been kind of on the coast of Maine. So we're staying on that ocean side. We're not going in too deep. We're not really heading into the mountains. Again, the Maine has that everything for you if you like the outdoors. But I stayed there and just immediately kind of just fell in love with the ocean and with there's so many things, so many subjects, the people, there's the working class, there's the beautiful homes that are iconic to that. You get that imagery that you see that you can definitely say that's New England, that's this, that's even specifically Maine. And there was so many subjects, my mind they were just sparking constantly when you're out there. And you understand why so many artists, and part of me, I just love that history aspect of it, where you follow in those footsteps. And it's kind of with the title of the show when we came up with that, it's kind of being drawn east. So many artists get thrown up there. And that historic part of me wanted to be like, why did, Winslow Homer go just leave New York and just forget that art scene, want to go to Maine and live there? And then, all those, the Wyatt family, White and Bellows and Henry and all those guys want to just go, and they travel and they go stay up and they summer in Maine. You don't hear a lot of wintering in Maine, but they summer in Maine a lot.
I'd like to see the winter
small house would be great. But you just, and I love that. I want to go to those places and see, and that's part of, you know, the history of it, but then you want to just, I want to see exactly where this was painted. And that's what some of this is, like little like tributes almost to those places. But then you have to take, you know, you have to bring your part, the idea of you being your artist yourself into that, what makes it, what really hits you. And then I think that's one of the big things about the show. And I invite these guys, again, like I said, because they're fun to hang out with, they're good friends, but I thought too, you know, just saying that we all can pull our own voice, and everyone, and as you look around the room, you can kind of see, I love people coming up to the show and being like, oh, I can tell which one is Christopher's, which one's Cody's, which one's yours, but they all have that same vibe, you get that same feel of it. So that's what every artist, when you go there, you want to have your own voice, but you also want it to feel that same kind of, again, that vibe of Maine.
Yeah. And kind of retouching on what Michael was saying about following in these footsteps, or seeing what it was that drew these artists here. When at least for me, when I was actually there, especially some of these spaces like on Guinane Island, it also, like I said, I played music earlier, and I used to, every now and then, our band would play in a club, and I would look at the history of the club and be like, Metallica played on this stage, and now it's very different when you're on that stage. No one cares nearly as much as when Metallica was on the stage, but you have this sense of history, like, this is the spot where this happened. And I felt that a lot, especially on Guinane Island, where it's like, these are the spots. Like, Wyatt was here, the Wyatt family, but mainly like Andrew Wyatt for me, who's been a huge influence since I started painting. It was like, he was here, he was specifically right here. And I don't know, I feel like there's some kind of energy that comes from that that was really exciting to tap into and to see.
And now, especially when you go there, but you see those, like when the Columbus Museum of Art did that George Bellows show a few years ago, you know, we saw places on Monhegan that he specifically painted that are some of the subjects that we have in this show. And I got so excited, like, I sat in that exact spot, right where he was painting this. And then, and just as an artist and like someone who appreciates the past, which I think we all did, we just love that idea. But then it's not just appreciating the past, but it's kind of, you're there, you're kind of like, I get it. And it's like, I feel why this had a connection with somebody. The colors, the light, just that, the sense of subject and what's there and how to approach, you know, just and sitting there trying to problem solve how to go about which materials to use, what would be best for this painting, for this image as you're there.
How to handle all the green. Because there's so much green.
Yep. And my students who are here, you guys know how much I love to talk about green. But yeah, and so that's why I think we have a great mix then within this, the place we work. Because we kind of started in this adventure, and we hop from spot to spot. So we started kind of home base, like in Kennebunkport, which is very south, if you know Maine, just right on the ocean, kind of just across the border. And like I said, we didn't really venture inland too much, but we stayed along that coastline. We made our way up to Portland, up, made our way towards, kind of made it as north as Rockland, which isn't too far, it's not quite as far as Arcadia National Park and that. But then, yeah, we venture, we ferry out to, again, Monhegan Island, which is kind of that artist mecca as you go out there. And so we just stay, we Airbnb to different places, and we go out every day, and we just kind of be on the move, just go and just look and take it in, and we all kind of, you know, we look at everything, we kind of separate a little bit, but we kind of stay together mostly during the day as we travel. And as we
lost each other on Guinane Island for a minute, and I thought we like legitimately lost Christopher down ravine. And I had to pull him out of a ravine. I'm glad he's in here because he'd be really upset when I was telling this story. And at that point we lost Michael and the whole thing. I was like, we're never making it back. We're never making it back to the ferry. We're stuck here now. That's okay.
Yeah, that was fine with that. Yeah. But yeah, that's the way it works. You just kind of get everything, because we see we're artists, we kind of wander off, and we're like, ooh. You know, and you see something that you like that may not pique your interest as much, even though a lot of it looks the same. And I go do my thing, and they go do their things. And then that's kind of how it worked. At the end of the night, we'd all go back to wherever we were staying. And I think we all just kind of went our own ways at that point. We'd sketch out ideas and thoughts, and we'd go through images that we had maybe photographed, or just kind of would just sit and sketch. And sometimes I would go out and just do like some plein air work, or I would just, but I think we always kind of would take our own moments many times, and we'd come back together, and we talk, and then we kind of separate.
I think that was also one of the nice parts, because I would like to return and see Maine several more times. I would like to see it, with my family. I feel like it'd be a very different trip. What was nice about this trip, it had a specific purpose, and also for the need to say, like, document things, take photo references. That can be a nuisance. It is a nuisance for, like, my wife in particular all the time. If I need to stop, and she understands what I'm doing, but it doesn't stop her from being annoyed. But yet, with Michael and Christopher, you didn't have to worry about that, and especially the nature of the trip. We knew what we were there for joy and the pleasure of it, but we were also there professionally, and we all understood the process of what needs to happen. And a lot of times that's just veering off without saying anything, because you see a thing that you think you can transform or create something out of. And it all does look similar, but yet it was interesting that to three people who work relatively similar styles, different subjects were still alluring differently to others.
And it's great to, again, work with other artists and do that kind of traveling. Not so much as a collaboration, but yeah, like you said, somebody veered off and Chris was like, oh, it stops, we need to go over here. And you kind of look and say, what is he seeing? I'm not seeing. Like, what is this?
We said that about Christopher often.
So Cody was like, let's wander off here. I'm like, what is Cody seeing in this? Same idea. But you just kind of would wonder. And it'd be whatever aesthetic that they want to take to what they're seeing. And you kind of just learn from that too. Like, oh, okay, I can kind of understand in your work where this is coming out. And then, like, seeing the final product. And that's what's great about this. Is we would talk a lot. We communicate, like, and meet up every once in a while about when we're making the show. We're creating all this work in the past couple of months. But then to see it finally on those walls, because I hadn't seen most of the work from these other guys, and when I finally got to see it, I'm like, oh, I remember that spot and that moment where you said, I need to see this, I need to stop there.
Yeah, and I'd be like, I remember when Michael stopped, and I was like, what's he doing? There's nothing there. Like, what's he doing? And then I see it, and I go, oh crap, that's awesome. I missed it. It was mine.
Half the time there wasn't anything there. You could go explore to see if that was a sight, a vision that you think you could maybe, that could turn into a good painting. And so that's what a lot of it was just taking those images. And then I think for all of us, we kind of, I'll speak for myself, I don't like speaking for the other artists, but for me, I kind of like that, I look at an image, I kind of find things, and again, a lot of what we do is working from photographs that we take, but we manipulate them, like for the sake of composition, for the sake of putting figures where I want them to be. I move a tree, it's like that. Again, Andrew Wyatt was a master of this. It's that magic realism, where it's realistic, but you take your own liberties and you made your own little world out of a spot because you changed things just for the sake of making the painting a better painting.
Yeah, that was something I especially noticed. It was like, keep coming back to Andrew Wyatt, but you really realize that when you're in these spaces, you're like, there's no photo. Like, his work may be, like, at sometimes it's so realistic, it feels so lifelike, but there's no photo you can take that creates this composition. It was his vision with what he was given. It was able to somehow twist it into something that felt so lifelike, but there's no photo that could be taken of that. And I just think that is such an ultimate goal for, visual expression. And you really realize that being in a state like in the Olsen house, and that property. And I felt, definitely, side note, I felt a lot of almost nostalgia and connection with that space. It reminded me, I grew up in a farmhouse, an 1800s farmhouse in rural Ohio. And that's where I spent, up till I was about 18. And going into this space, it felt very like that. Maine and the landscapes felt very different, but yet there was also enough similar to where it kind of struck a chord with me. Even the smell of the interior of this very old home, it was the same smell as like my childhood home. So I had a lot of connections that were happening there that I felt I was able to, it excited me a lot about the space. The different connections.
And when Coach referred to the Olsen house, that's the house, we visited the place that Andrew Wyatt in his famous painting, Christina's World, with the girl in the field. It's that little house that you see up there, where Andrew Wyatt spent half of his time painting. So we get this kind of a tribute to an artist like that to go see the spot. And many of the things we did were on that property. A few next to like the large sky side of each scape, you know, those three to the right, specifically that land, and where Andrew Ladd's grave is, was right there in those trees. And so we just, again, it's kind of like our own little pilgrimage, if you will, but that's not when we took the paintings. I think there's probably some others too in that property, but they were kind of scattered about here and there. But yeah, I was going to say, I'd love to, any questions you guys have, just throw them up anytime. Yeah.
I have a question. You said that your styles were pretty similar before you did this trip, or maybe before you knew each other. But have you noticed after talking to each other and working together, have you traded not secrets, but like how to get certain colors, and especially up in Maine, the weather is so different and it's grayer and there's more mist. Did you get to really help each other with what you were doing?
Michael wouldn't tell me how to get the foggy look. I tried twice and failed, and then thanks a lot, buddy.
I think a lot of it is, I mean, yeah, we can always talk. We don't have secrets from one another. We'll ask questions like, how did you do this? What did you go about approaching that? But I think so much of it is us. I mean, we just kind of watch and we see when you do something like, oh, I would have thought of making that shadow, those colors, and that whole composition of that being like that. And I think a lot of us just learning from one another. And again, there's similar stuff, but I'm always separate in the way that, you know, there's more, I mean, again, we're definitely a separate style, like stylizations of those, but I think a lot of it is just learning and saying, oh, I didn't think about trying that, or that did work really well, that loose watercolor style that you use, or like some of Chris's like tighter oils, and those very, you know, geometric kind of forms and shapes that you can create with those houses.
Yeah, I think that beyond just kind of sharing tips between each other, like about materials or whatever it may be, I think, like, at least I can speak personally, like, spending time with both of them, like, I see the influence of theirs in my own work, and we each, you're always trying to retain your own creative voice as best you can, or expand on your own creative voice. But I also recognize that, you know, I have become inspired by the things that my friends are doing, you know, so it kind of, it works both ways, like, at the same time. So, I feel like that's an interesting part of the friendship as well.
And I think one more point on that is I kind of, you know, it was some of the paintings I did, I'm like, I finished a painting, I'm like, wow, this looks like something Christopher would have done. You know, this looks like a Burk, you know, not necessarily one of mine. But, and even when we're laughing about like kind of each of our own, going our own ways and seeing different things, I think, again, we can keep saying stuff like Christopher because he's not here to defend himself. But we look at something like it says Burk written all over this little house here, and you knew you just get jumped right into it.
Jump in there and take a picture and be,
that's good. We're trying to claim things. At the same time, we love seeing the interpretation of the same kind of things. We look at some of like the old schoolhouse or the museum up there. Those three, you know, walk over and kind of point out. Again, it's a different interpretation. We didn't talk specifically about like all three of us doing that same house. There was just such a great looking building, and then when we hung the shelf, we're like, wow, look at that. We all did that same one. There's a few others in there that are very. Some of them are literally matchy, but you know, some of them are just those same places. And
yeah, that was a trio that worked. We're like, oh look, we didn't talk about it, but we all found inspiration in that subject. And then there's showing up and going, we made the same painting.
Yeah.
We need to separate these paintings.
We're not going to tell you which, but they're exactly the same.
Like,
one's just a lot bigger. Yes, you.
There's a great variety of size of paintings here. How do you decide to make it big or small or?
For me, there's a couple of answers to that. Some of the, like maybe one or two of the little small ones, I started as literally plein air paintings. So I do like just on site. There's not too many of those I did. So some of the songs are like that, or at least they started. They were this nice little, almost like sketches. And a lot of times I would start painting small in my studio. And I was like, wow, this is actually, I meant it to be a little sketch, but it's turning into a nice, this could be a final. Some of the larger ones, again, I speak for myself, like these, the carved ones like behind this wall here, those, I needed those to be big in the way I was painting them, because I wanted to, this was a morning and we were on the beach, this is in Kennebunkport, and it was just a foggy, like, it was such a great atmosphere. The sun was trying to crack through, but couldn't quite, and it was just this quiet, noise, and I wanted to be able to just have those figures, or if there's any figures at all, but anything in there, to make it a grand scale, to put you like right in there. I wanted you just to, like, I wanted you to hear almost a painting, just have that, and put you in that environment. And you do it small, and it's a nice little painting, but it doesn't quite have that same impact and the same effect of that larger scale of wanting you to just be invited right into it. And then, like the one with the figure, the man and the dog, I wanted them to be just so small and just secondary to what would be not quite a monumental painting, but just to kind of show the scale of what that is, and that moment of just being encompassed by this this great environment. I wanted to, you see this, you had to be in that world, and it didn't work unless it was, for me, large scale, in that kind of totalistic manner.
The second question, you have a little girl on a hill back here, and that one isn't for sale. What's special about that? Your keeping?
Someone bought it when it was halfway done. I was working on that. I was doing a kind of live demo on that painting, and I love that. I love that work. And that's one of those where that's not to go into too much, but that's one of those kind of magic realism where the girl wasn't on that spot of the hill, and I kind of moved. She was there on that island, and she was looking just like that, but I kind of moved her where I wanted her to be, and I got rid of some elements of that. But no, that's where somebody came up and watched me as I was painting on it, and she goes, I'll buy that. And I'm like, should I stop now? Or should I actually finish it? And then she just goes, well, let me come to your studio and see when it's done, to see if you haven't wrecked it. And so that's why it was previously, I just had to mark it for sale before.
I feel like also that piece kind of stands out. It has a lot of kind of drama in it, and I enjoy that a lot of stuff. It stood out.
And I think that kind of goes into that illustration kind of world. I like to tell a story without being so literal about it. And I want to ask you a specific question about what is that? And I talk meaning, and I have meaning in a lot of the works. They're not just simple, necessarily like landscapes or this or that, but all the work you do, and as any artist should have a meaning to what you're doing to the work. It's not, yes, I like pretty pictures, but also it has to have a little bit more of a connection to me. But I also like to I don't tell everyone specifically everything about it. Somebody asked me, what exactly is happening in that picture? I'm like, what do you think is going on in that picture? I'll give you some hints, I'll give you some clues. If you really need to know, I can talk through what I want, but I want you to have your own experience with that. And the way I had mine, and then I can share that with you, and then you can take a little bit more of yours. But I've had some people, they like to take their interpretation of it, and I let them run with it, and I think that's just fine. Unless I really think it's off, I can correct you. That's absolutely not what I'm trying to say at all. So you get that. And I don't know if you have anything to speak about size or anything.
I think Mike pretty well covered it, but generally when I'm approaching an idea or a new painting, you just kind of develop these internal cues and alarms or whatever that kind of cue you into, this feels like it should be an intimate small piece, or this feels like it should be grandiose. And I can imagine like Michael's, beach scenes being done very well in a small fashion, but that seems like the right choice. That needed to be bigger, it needed to occupy more space, and I think it served that well. So I feel like you can have that. There's something inside that's like, this feels like it needs more room, it needs to occupy more space. Versus, someone like Christopher does very well, is occupying a lot of space without actually space at all. Most of his work is very small, but it doesn't feel that way when you're taking it in and connecting with it. So I think it just depends.
I think that's just too good for a lot of what we do, but even if it's small, whatever the scale might be, deciding which elements within an image, within a picture, to decide what's going to take up space, or should, a lot of these are, we have a lot of the houses that are in this, should that house be like right up in front of you, or should I just put that as a little like peeking, just kind of saying hello, it's there, and it's not, it's very important, it's the subject, it's like it's who you're painting, but it's just about how much you choose to throw that out there or pull that back in.
I feel like that's the interesting thing, especially about doing like this kind of work, is within any landscape, there are literal endless possibilities to the composition of what you're doing. And I spend too many hours every day tweaking and I use almost my phone as a sketchbook almost, in that I photograph almost everything I see all the time. And then on my downtime, I go through and I see, is there something there that I can work from? And then within that, how many other things are in that I can use? And just kind of playing around with that, iPhones make it really easy. It's a nice tool in the modern day that you can kind of play around with. So it's interesting when you see a final product, that's a lot of time spent going, maybe it should be a little over here. Like, what is going to resonate the most here? And I feel like size of painting, and it all kind of plays into it. I know there was a question.
Kind of already started, but could you each describe your process a little bit?
You go first.
You don't want to get into my process. Yeah, so I suppose I expanded on that a little already, but I have a couple different approaches, and mainly two. I do like to do a lot of plein air work. I attempted one plein air piece on this trip, and it ended horribly, and so I didn't make it into the show. But I do enjoy doing a lot of plein air work, and that's a very different process from the studio-based work. And the outcome, I feel like, is very different too. But most of my work is done in the studio, and I like to work from photo reference, but again, I like to make tweaks. I like to take artistic liberty with, I'm not just trying to recreate a photograph, but hopefully using that as my starting point and creating something out of it. And I realized a long time ago that, and this was kind of what helped me get into painting, was I felt like when I was younger, I was deterred from painting because all the artists who I envied or looked up to were able to just start with a blank canvas and then create from their mind, and I thought that's what you have to be able to do if you're an artist. And then I realized there are a lot of people who have starting points, and they're starting from nature, or they're starting from the figure, or and then they're using that point to create something. And I realized that's the kind of artist, at least I am right now. And so I needed these kind of starting points to then leap off from. So I generally start with some kind of photo reference and go from there. And and then just for me with watercolor, I've kind of learned to see an idea from the beginning to end. I know a lot of artists who hop around they have 20 paintings going at once, and I've never been able to understand. Like for me, the process is so personal, and so for me, it kills me to have more than one piece going at a time. I need to see it start, I need to see it finish before I can start the next one. And for a lot of the watercolor work, for any of you who paint with watercolor, know that it's not very forgiving, and there's not a lot of room to go back and make revisings. And so I got used to the idea of starting it, finishing it, seeing if it worked. If it didn't work, starting again until I get it to work, and then moving on to the next idea. And so that generally is how I still operate. Even now, if I'm moving on to more opaque mediums like acrylic and oil, I still need to see it all the way to the end before I move on to something else. So I guess that's like a...
As part of your design process, do you do anything on the computer? Do you use software?
She was asking about if we work on computers at all.
Yeah. I not a lot on the computer other than taking photo references and cropping, moving, and then from there, I'll often do sketches from those where I'm moving a tree around or subtracting or adding or whatever from that point. But like Christopher, for example, I know has been doing a lot of digital sketches. I don't know how he does them, but he's been doing them. They're showing up on Instagram. And I think that's a really cool, I think whatever technology you can use to your benefit, however it works for you as an artist might not be the same for the next person, but you gotta kind of find that path. So,
yeah. And those are great tools that, like you said, Christopher does do a lot of digital sketching. So it's just save as if you can figure out how to make that work for you. Yeah. I do a lot of work on the computer, composing, figuring out. I mean, a lot of my paintings are not they're not traditional sizes because I want to get the composition just right, and I pull and I stretch to get it, just to figure out how I want to lay it out. And I do that a lot, and I'm cutting and cropping, and I do like 10 different, there's sketches, but on the computer to see what looks right. And it's just easy to, I still do thumbnails and my own sketchbook and that kind of thing, but then I put together the elements I have from different photos. So, and again, if I'm working for photo reference, I'm working for like 20 photos of the same thing, different angles, different light, that kind of thing going on in that. And I am like where I just take photos of everything all over the place, and you kind of come back and say, what can I make an interesting image out of that?
And And your substrate is, if your design is touching the substrate,
Yeah, well, so I work on panel, and so I do like, I work on panel specifically because I can just cut those to random sizes. So I do just cut and figure out exactly what that might be for me. And Cody was saying he likes to work on one at once. I usually have a few going at the same time. A lot of that goes into my process of I layer paint a lot, and a lot of you, I get this question a lot about the watercolor aspect. It's watercolor and acrylics. Now, I don't use like watercolor like Cody does, or that traditional watercolor stuff. I dry brush it on there. So it's using watercolor. It starts out a little wet, and I just use a big brush and just kind of tone the paint with it. It picks up all the little grooves, and I paint them right into that dried watercolor with acrylics that picks that up. I don't want to get too much into that complicated process. I can answer that.
I still don't understand it. I've asked that so many times. I'm like,
I'll go fast. But because of that, like I work on a few ones, but I'm getting some drying time between stages. And like those large ones, those are oils. And so even those, they needed weeks to dry between stages. So I do like a couple of those at once, set them aside in the studio, you know, and then just kind of let that, while those were drying, I work on some other things. I do the next stage, the next bit of layering on top of that to just build up and build up. And that's, and again, I like getting that for the tonality of my work and get that atmosphere right. And I love working with those muted tones. And I think that was really well for the time of year when we were in Maine. And those, for me specifically, those muted tones work so well. And my process does that. That's just aesthetically what I would like to have.
On the process, Cody, do you have your next works like coming up? Like when you're working on, do you know which one you're going to go to next?
That is a great question. Yeah, I learned that I needed to improve my process because I used to not think ahead enough. And so, you know, studio time has always been a very precious time that you cut it. And I would end up finishing a piece and then be like, oh no, now I have to look at thousands of pictures and try to figure out what's next. And I could spend 2 hours just sitting, strumming through, trying to think of like what feels like I should be doing this next. And I realized that this was something that I could be doing on other time. I could be queuing things up so that when I actually, because instead of being on YouTube, watching old music videos of bands I liked when I was 18 for no reason at all, I could use that time instead to kind of set myself up for success in the future. And so I make different folders, like on my phone, personally, for these are next. This is what's coming next. And so then I narrow it down to, okay, I have 10 pictures. And maybe as I finish, I'm not sure exactly which one, but I can pick between 10 much quicker than I can pick between 3,000. And so I realized that was something that was helpful. So it took me a while to figure that out, and then I'm glad that I did, and I could incorporate that into the process. You know, and it does kind of lead itself to never really clocking out of your job, so to speak, because then I find myself spending. I'm still, on the time that I'm supposed to be relaxing at the end of the day, I'm still going through stuff. I can still be distracted, just like anyone can be distracted by social media. It's the same thing if you're sitting at the dinner table with your family and you're looking through photo references. It's the same thing. So you still have to curve that as well. But if I'm just by myself out on the porch, there's no reason why I can't be working too.
It's your job.
Is there?
Yeah. So I love the journey aspect of this. It seems like together as a group, you guys carved out your own language of Maine. Do you have any other places that you guys would like to go together to collaborate?
I mean, one of them is going back to Maine again. I think.
I want to go out west.
Yeah. Again, we discussed. All we've said to each other is we're definitely going somewhere again with one another. But as far as getting that inspiration, finding that motivation, and again, that would be you figure out that trip. We'll make it.
I guess the next one's on me. I'll figure out.
You don't like it.
But yeah, so it's interesting that we haven't actually gotten to the point of going, where would be next? But it's been understood that there's definitely next. We're definitely doing this again. And maybe bringing someone else along too, so who knows?
We've had people inquire about, we'd like to follow what's going to happen next with even the group, just to see, where we're going to the next stages of that, see our collaborations that might work. And like you said, inviting some people in, maybe taking some people out, no, I'm kidding. No. But, having
I'll
that.
see myself out.
But yeah, just finding that idea to collaborate. And that happens with a lot of opportunities. We get those opportunities to go travel, to go places with other artists, and it's fantastic. But yeah, to figure out this trip and find that motivation. I was lucky enough to have someone invite me up to Maine, and that's what got me there first, and now I just keep going back. It's those little opportunities that come up and just say yes. I find I've said yes to a lot of things, just leads to great things.
And I also feel like sometimes it takes one person, it's like you see a movie and you really want to share it with your friends. So that was kind of what Maine was for us, because he had experienced it, and so there's that pull. But then when it's just some space that nobody's been, it's kind of, it'd be a whole different feeling. So it could be as easy as someone, making a trip that, by themselves somewhere and realizing, oh, this is a good space that I think my friends would enjoy, and we could really mine some stuff out from here.
I would be really interested in seeing a place that none of us have been. And all of us being first timers somewhere and be like, okay, how we do it? Without somebody being like, I've been here, I've done this. Let me show you like you said, like,
yeah, I guess we really annoying real fast.
But I think that'd be really fun to find a place that we all like, maybe we've heard or something. Again, follow that idea of history of another artist did something somewhere, but then like, let's all go and let's all be first timers there and see what comes of it. I think that might be a really fun opportunity. Yes.
I have one question for each of you. Did you visit your gallery while you were there?
Were we at the shop gallery over there?
I don't think so. But we did meet her.
Yeah, we hung out, we went to dinner with her, and like my gallery owner up there, we met like to her place. I think at that time, the gallery I'm up there with right now just recently closed her doors. She's still she's not like a storefront, like physical gallery, she does everything online now. Just because that's just a business approach she decided to take. She did most of her sales online, so she decided to do that. So at that point, the gallery might have had their doors closed when we were there. We were there in September of last year.
You said you just took up painting relatively recently. What did you do before that?
Played in the rock and roll band. I started playing guitar when I was 11 or 12, and I've always kind of taken this approach. I realized that it's a pattern for me of how I learn for a new skill, whatever it may be. And I can divide my life into 3 sections, and it's kind of silly, but basketball, music, fine art. And I never took any lessons to be a professional athlete. But when anyone asked me when I was younger what I was going to be, I'm going to be in the NBA, and very matter of fact. And my parents have always been so encouraging, but they would always be like, what else would you like to do? And that was the first time I was like, what do you mean, what else would I like to do? But I self-taught how to, I wasn't even good at basketball. I was better at like what the Harlem, the Globetrotters do, like spinning basketballs on your finger. That's what I did, and I was decent at it. But then eventually, I got to actually play on the team, and I was terrible. And then I was like, well, forget this, I'm going to play guitar. And so then I taught myself how to play guitar, and did that, and I played music for a long time. And fine art was always kind of in the background. I enjoyed it, but I literally always said, yeah, but you can't make a living as an artist. You need to make a living as a musician. And I did that for like 10 years and could never figure out how to make any money as a musician. Our band operated for like a decade, and in the end, we split up the band fund and we each took home $44. So, and then at that point, I was like, I would like to do something that I don't depend on 4 other guys to get together and schedule our practices or gigs or whatever. I want to be able to create and just do something kind of singular by myself. And I got back into painting. And, you find someone that inspires you. In particular, it was a watercolorist named Sterling Edwards. He lives in North Carolina. That I just was like, oh, I didn't know you could do this with watercolor. My mom's a librarian. I told her, I like watercolor now. And she got me all the books out. And so I just kind of realized that for better or worse, I always take this path of like, I'm studied and went to school and got their bachelor's of fine arts. They're doing these things that I'm like, I really wish I would have taken that path. But I'm also happy about my own path. And so I see what benefits can lie on both sides. So,
Well, I wonder about the TV show. Did you all work on that together? How'd that go?
I did everything.
Well, like I said, we kind of been keeping in touch, like online, sending each other images back and forth, but we didn't really know sizes. We didn't know that until we all brought it in that day of hanging, and we just hung. I mean, like 59 paintings. I think we put them all along the ground, and it took this long process of just a day of picking and moving and deciding what goes where, and then we made a lot of corrections and just kind of. Again, it's so much more planning, just figuring out what works well together. You just keep talking, you discuss it, and then something's worked, and then you suddenly make a change, and then you say, what grouping should we be very literal about the same spot, the same places next to each other, or what paintings might work aesthetically? We didn't really worry that much about it. There's not much of a color variation that we had to worry about in that situation, but just,
we know they're all green, so it's good.
but then, yeah, it took a long time of just deciding and picking and choosing. The only thing I really had determined in my head that I really wanted those two spots behind the wall here for those two large paintings. And I kind of claimed that for myself. Subtly, there was some placement of paintings there. So when I brought them in, it's kind of laid in there.
Oh, there's no, I'm just brought them up here.
But no, it's overwhelming when you look at it all. When you first get to hang a show, you kind of go, you get a great appreciation for people that do that for a living, of hanging shows and figuring out what to place where and how to get those bounced up. And then literally it was kind of, when it comes down to the specifics of it, you gave Cody the nails, and Christopher and I would just kind of be spotting the angles, and
I go here, conk.
Yeah, and then just figure out every inch and making those decisions.
I learned also, so when I was working at Open Door, each of us, our facilitator would curate one show every year. And I kind of learned in my time there that at first you think, all right, I got this. This is my vision for the show, so I'm going to hang everything. But you kind of learn that it always turns out better when you get a few other perspectives in there, because you see a lot of things that shape up in a way that at first you fight and like, no, that doesn't seem right to me, and then eventually you go, no, actually that's way better than what I would have thought to do. And that happened. I had to leave. We got 3/4 of the way through, and we were kind of working on stuff, and then I had to go. And Michael and Christopher finished up, and then they sent me some images of things that I wasn't quite sure how we were going to solve. And I'm like, oh, what a beautiful way to solve that. And it's kind of exciting to step away from it.
And the key is compromise, because we have ideas like, I wanted this here, I wanted that there, something I think about the three of us, we're easygoing. We're like, there's nobody that is like that hard-headed about, this has to be there, this has to be like this. But I had an idea in my head of where I wanted specific things, but then I think some of their suggestions were much better than what my original thoughts were about what to place with one another. So I think I saw it.
So are your paintings based on pictures that you've taken?
Yeah, everything is images that we had, that we were there. These are all spots that we sat in, people we saw, like places we were right there at that exact spot that you see. Those were all places that all three of us were at those places.
Will there be any paintings of Cuba?
Yeah, there already are a few, and that's what. So there's always enough. Like I always have other projects planned out, sketched ahead. So I always have those ideas and compositions, and things ready to go that I just haven't had time to do. So when this show ended, I don't have anything specific on my radar right now to do. So it's great. So now I can just get into. I traveled to Cuba as another one of my recent trips, and yeah, now I have time to put together a bunch of those ideas, those thoughts that I had from that show, and which it sometimes gets sad when you travel, you come back, and you're so fired up to do artwork from this travel that you just had. But first, I got to do a whole show of Maine before I get to this. Then you got to yeah, and so you have to remember those ideas. So you sketch them out, you do a lot of the work. And that's why, it's not sometimes when I do travel to Maine, not necessarily with these guys, but I'll bring sketchbooks with me. I'll bring my watercolors, do a lot of, so I can remember that moment, remember that place, that spot. And have that memory, and that's one thing. Same with photographs. You go back and oh yeah, that's right. I had that thought. This came through me, and you have to remember back to those things because a lot of times you have to put so much on hold. It's a good problem to have as an artist. You have just shows lined up one on the next. But excited now that I have free time.
I also actually went to Cuba in 2016. I wasn't a part of the cool kids trip that got together, so I was a little jelly. But I did go in 2016, and I very much had that same experience of, oh, I'm going to come back and I'm going to make this work, and I've still yet to gain the time to put that work together. But now I feel like I'm closing in on it. But it is tough because it's so potent right after you're there and you want to hop into it. But time constraints and schedules, and especially in general, you're always planning things out, and so the next big body of work is generally going to be months, years away. So it's that can be kind of an interesting hurdle that you have to go over, especially when
And I think you guys could probably appreciate that. Anybody that is an artist, going somewhere getting so inspired by something, you want to immediately create when you see that. You want to put your vision out right away, and it becomes very frustrating sometimes when you have to just put that on hold.
We kept saying, the same thing happened with the Maine show, because we went a long time before a lot of the work was made, and we kept kind of joking with each other, like, yeah, I've got 2 more commissions and a little thing, but then I'm going to get into this Maine stuff, and it just kept getting pushed because you're trying to cram too much into one. And so I was just sitting on references for several months before I was finally able to get into it. It felt really good to finally crack into that work.
And that takes you right back to that world, actually, right away. It's like then you get back into that cycle. And that's one thing I kind of like, just locking the door of the studio.
So what was the timeline? How long was the trip, and then how long has it been since?
So we went in September last year, and we were there it was about a week. Honestly, it was just we were moving fast and just hitting up what we could, just going along that coastline. So it was, when you think about it as a whole of our experience, it was a short trip. It was, but we took a lot in from that, and we filmed every day, up early, stayed up late, just that kind of idea. Just again, we were just on the move, just looking, and going, and just taking it all in. And then, so then, like you kind of said, I started a few right away when I got back, because I was really fired up, but I could only get a couple done. And then, I think most of the work that we did was probably just in the past, this past spring, summer. In that period, so I didn't do much through the winter for this project.
Did you all take trips in the fall?
No, for this Maine, everything for winter. So
Yeah, winter must be fabulous.
I'm sure it is, absolutely, yeah. So I've only, I've been there, Maine has its season, it's a summering kind of place. But there's obviously people that live there year round, but you go to some of those, Kennebunkport, if you're there before Memorial Day, it's quiet. It's very, and a lot of these great houses you'd see on the beach, places that would be like that. They're kind of just board still in the windows, and they haven't opened for the season. And it's just that's where you get the really quiet aspect of Maine. And then you get summer, it's just full. The beaches are packed, and then you kind of fall into fall, which is kind of a mid. You can get that nice mix. And I would love to go back in winter though and experience it.
I think we have time for one more question. Yes.
Last week of October, I have not, but there might be some people in this room who have been. I imagine it could be hit or miss. You could get some great weather, or you could get snow. I'm sure it could go both ways very easy. Yeah.
Well, let's give Michael a round of applause.